What if I told you the most expensive gear in your sled is completely useless because of how you walk? You spend hundreds, maybe thousands, on gear to be stealthy. But what if the real problem isn't your line or your lure, but your boots? Today, we're talking about something we all do but almost never think about: walking on the ice. Specifically, could the simple vibration from your footsteps be the only signal a fish needs to shut down completely? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see your walk across the frozen lake in a completely new and possibly game-changing light. We're going to uncover the invisible reason why that spot that was hot yesterday is a dead zone today, even though nothing seems to have changed. Let me ask you this right now. Do you stomp or do you tiptoe on the ice? Let me know in the comments, and be honest. Every ice angler knows the basics. Be quiet, don't drop things on the ice. Well, we've heard it from our dads, our granddads. It's common sense. But we usually think that means don't slam your truck door or don't drop the auger. We treat the ice like a solid floor. We walk, we pull our sleds, we set up our gear, and we assume the real work of being stealthy begins when the line hits the water. It's just how it's always been done. You get to the spot, you walk to where you think the fish are, and you start fishing. The act of walking is just a way to get from point A to point B. But what if that journey is the very thing sabotaging your entire day? Let's start with a simple fact. Sound travels through water way better than it does through air. About 4 times faster, actually. Imagine you're underwater in a swimming pool. You can hear everything happening outside with perfect clarity. A car door slamming a block away sounds like it's right next to you. Now, fish live in that world 24/7. Their entire existence is built around sensing tiny vibrations. It's how they find food, and more importantly, how they avoid becoming food. So when we talk about noise, we're not just talking about something that's annoying to them. We're talking about a life or death signal that they are hardwired to react to. It is their primary sense for detecting danger from a distance, and we've been ignoring it for far too long. Now you might be thinking, but there's a thick layer of ice between me and the fish. And you're right. But that ice doesn't block the sound. It acts like a giant drumhead. Think about it. When you tap on a drum, the entire surface vibrates, and that vibration creates the sound you hear. Every single step you take on the ice is like hitting that drum. It's not a loud bang, but it's a low-frequency thump, a vibration that travels through the ice and then transfers directly into the water column below. It's not the sound of your boots hitting the snow on top that's the problem. It's the pressure wave your body weight creates. And that invisible wave is the real enemy here. It's a signal we can't hear, but one they can definitely feel. So what does the fish experience? Let's put ourselves in their fins for a second. You're a perch, suspended a few feet off the bottom, just waiting for an easy meal. Everything is quiet, just the normal hum of the underwater world. Suddenly you feel a rhythmic thump, thump, thump from above. It's a sound that doesn't belong. It's not a swimming creature. It's not the wind. It's heavy, it's consistent, and it's getting closer. What's your first instinct? It's not to wonder what's for dinner. It's to find cover, and fast. That thump is the equivalent of you hearing giant, slow footsteps outside your bedroom window in the middle of the night. You're not sticking around to see what it is. You're hiding. For a fish, any large, unnatural vibration from above spells one thing: danger. Their biggest predators, like ospreys or even bears, would create similar disturbances on the surface or on the ice. So their brains are programmed over millions of years of evolution to associate that thump from above with a threat. It triggers an immediate fight or flight response, and for a fish, flight is the only real option. They don't have to see you, they don't have to hear your auger yet. The vibration of your approach is the only alarm they need. It's the early warning system that tells them to lock their jaws and head for the nearest weed bed, rock pile, or deep water. Your fishing day can be over before it even starts. This brings us to a crucial concept. Let's call it the cone of vibration. Think of the sound from your footsteps not as just going straight down, but spreading out in a cone shape into the water. The closer you are to being directly over the fish, the more direct and intense that vibration is. Imagine you're standing directly over a prime piece of structure. Every shift of your weight, every step you take to grab a piece of gear, is sending a direct shock wave into that strike zone. You might be fishing in 10 feet of water, but to the fish, it's like you're stomping on their ceiling. This is why you sometimes catch a fish on your very first drop, and then absolutely nothing for the next hour. The one aggressive fish bit, but the rest of them got the message and vanished. Now, not all ice is created equal when it comes to transmitting this sound. Thick, black, solid ice is the absolute worst offender. It's incredibly dense and uniform, making it an amazing conductor of vibrations. It's like a perfectly tuned speaker, broadcasting your every move. On the other hand, an ice surface that's covered in a thick blanket of snow can be your best friend. That snow acts as a natural sound dampener. It absorbs a significant amount of the shock and vibration from your footsteps before it can transfer into the ice itself. It's like putting a thick pillow on top of that drumhead. This is why some of your best fishing days might be right after a fresh snowfall. It's not just the barometric pressure, it's that you were unknowingly being far more stealthy. We've all heard the old advice. After you drill your holes, you need to let the spot settle for 10 or 15 minutes. But what are we actually doing during that time? Usually we're walking around, setting up our shelter, grabbing our rods, all right on top of the area we just prepped. We believe we're letting the noise from the auger dissipate, but we're just replacing it with a constant nagging barrage of new vibrations from our footsteps. It's like telling someone to calm down after a loud car alarm by continuously tapping them on the shoulder. The fish never ever get a chance to feel safe and come back out to investigate. The settling period is being completely negated by our own constant movement. So, how far does this vibration actually travel? This is the million-dollar question for every ice fisherman, and the answer is much farther than you would ever guess. Scientific studies on underwater acoustics have shown that low-frequency sounds, the exact kind of thumps our footsteps make, can travel for hundreds and hundreds of feet underwater with very little loss of energy. This means you could be spooking fish that are 50, maybe even 100 yards away from your current position. Think about that for a moment. The spot you plan to fish in an hour could already be empty because the fish there felt you walking from the access point. You are broadcasting your arrival to the entire area long before you ever wet a line. It's a very sobering thought. Let's address the elephant in the room, the auger. It's loud, it vibrates like crazy, it's violent. Isn't that a much bigger problem than my footsteps? The answer is both yes and no. The sound of the auger is incredibly intense, but it is also temporary. It's a big, scary event that happens, and then it is over. Fish will definitely spook, but if no other threats appear, their natural curiosity or hunger might eventually bring them back to the area. The real problem is our footsteps. They are a continuous, nagging, persistent signal of a predator's presence. The auger is a loud, sudden bang. Our footsteps are the creepy, rhythmic, creaking floorboard that keeps the fish on high alert for the entire day. They never feel safe enough to resume their normal feeding patterns. Let's think about a common scenario we have all seen. You're set up, it's been quiet for an hour, not a single bite. Then you see another fisherman walking towards you from across the lake to chat. You can literally feel his heavy footsteps through the ice. Thump, thump, thump. He gets to your spot, you talk for a few minutes, and he leaves. And for the next hour, your spot is completely and utterly dead. We've all experienced this exact situation. We usually blame it on bad luck or the fish just turning off. But what if it was a direct and predictable result of those vibrations? That angler essentially walked right through your fishing spot, stomped on the ceiling, and sent every single fish in the area running for the hills. Yeah. So what in the world can we do about it? The solution starts before you even step 1 foot on the ice. Take a minute on the shore to look and plan your route. Don't just take the most direct path to your favorite honey hole. Think about where the fish are most likely to be holding, like points or weed lines. Try to walk on areas you don't plan to fish, like shallow flats or barren zones away from the main structure. You must treat the entire lake like it's a minefield of spookable fish. Your goal is to get to your primary spot without alerting the residents that you are there. This requires a complete mental shift. The fishing doesn't start when you drill a hole. It starts the moment your boot leaves your truck. When you are finally on the ice, you have to change how you walk. Forget the heavy-heeled stomp you use on the pavement every day. Think more like a predator yourself. Take softer, more deliberate, and lighter steps. Try to roll your foot from heel to toe, rather than slamming it down flat like a hammer. Keep your weight distributed evenly. It might feel a little silly at first, but it dramatically reduces the sharp impact that creates the most offensive and loudest vibrations. Imagine you're trying to sneak up on a deer in the woods. You wouldn't go crashing through the brush. Apply that same exact mindset to the ice. Every single step is a potential spook. Walk like you mean it. As we mentioned earlier, snow is your absolute best friend. If there are snow-covered paths or deep drifts, use them to your advantage. Walking on a thick layer of snow is infinitely quieter than walking on bare, resonant ice. If you're pulling a heavy sled loaded with gear, the difference is even more dramatic. Pulling a sled over bare, squeaky ice sends out a tremendous amount of noise and vibration across the entire lake. Pulling it through snow is much, much quieter. So instead of avoiding the drifts because it's harder work, you should seek them out. It's a simple trade-off, a little more physical effort for a lot more stealth. A few extra calories burned could be the difference between a full bucket and going home completely empty-handed. Here is a practical strategy you can implement on your very next trip. Establish what we'll call a base camp. Instead of hauling all your gear directly to where you plan to fish, stop a good distance away, maybe 30 or 40 yards short of your target. Set up your shelter there, organize your rods, get everything ready to go. Then, when it's time to actually fish, you only take the bare essentials to the spot, your auger, your flasher, and one single rod. You drill your holes, and then you quietly retreat back to your base camp to let the spot truly settle down without you pacing around right on top of it. This tactic minimizes your time and movement directly over the fish you are trying to catch. This stealthy mindset also applies to how we interact with other anglers on the ice. If you see someone fishing, give them a very wide berth. Do not walk right up to their holes to see how they're doing. You're not just potentially interrupting their concentration, you are actively spooking all the fish in their area. If you want to chat, signal to them from a distance. Let them come to you or meet somewhere in between, away from the spots you're both actively fishing. It's a small act of fishing courtesy that shows you understand how the underwater world actually works. And frankly, other serious anglers will respect you a whole lot more for it. It's a sign of a pro. Now you might be sitting there wondering if this applies to all fish species. Generally, the answer is a resounding yes, but some are definitely more sensitive than others. Panfish like crappie and bluegill, which often suspend high up in the water column, can be incredibly spooky. They feel very vulnerable and exposed. Walleye, which are often tight to the bottom, might be slightly more tolerant of noise, but they are also notoriously finicky and selective. And trout? They can be the spookiest of all fish under the ice. The main takeaway here is that no fish likes unnatural, rhythmic vibrations from above. Assuming that the fish you're targeting are deaf is a proven recipe for a long, cold, and fishless day on the ice. But the ice makes its own noises, right? We've all heard it crack, groan, and pop. Don't the fish get used to that? Absolutely they do. Those are completely natural sounds. Fish are accustomed to them. They know the sound of the ice shifting with temperature changes and pressure. The key difference is the pattern and the rhythm. The ice groaning is a random natural event. Your footsteps thump, thump, thump are rhythmic, consistent, and directional. It's the unmistakable pattern of a predator walking. That is what triggers the alarm bell in their brains. It's the difference between hearing the wind blow through the trees and hearing a twig snap right behind you in the dark. If you're still skeptical, I want you to try this little experiment next time you're out with a buddy. Find a promising spot and have one person watch the flasher or an underwater camera very closely. Have the other person start walking from about 50 yards away directly towards the hole. Just watch what happens on the screen. You will almost certainly see the fish on your graph scatter panic or press tight to the bottom long before your buddy gets anywhere near the hole. It's a real-time, undeniable demonstration of this principle in action. Seeing is believing, and once you see those red marks on your sonar disappear because of footsteps, you'll never walk on the ice the same way again. Look, is being mindful of your walking going to be the magic bullet that guarantees you a limit every single time you go out? Of course not. Fishing is always going to be more complicated than that. But fishing is a game of percentages. We do everything we possibly can to stack the odds in our favor. We buy the right lures, we use sensitive rods, we use fluorocarbon leaders for invisibility. Being conscious of the vibrations you create is just one more very significant percentage point you can add to your side of the equation. And sometimes one single percentage point is all it takes to turn a slow day into a day you'll remember for a long time. So let's bring it all back to the core question we asked at the beginning. Could the vibrations from your footsteps be the only signal the fish need to hide? The evidence and simple physics strongly suggest that the answer is yes. It is a primary, fundamental signal of danger that we as a fishing community have largely ignored. We've been so focused on what's happening beneath the ice that we've forgotten that the biggest threat to our success might just be our own 2 feet. It's a simple and perhaps frustrating truth, but accepting it is the first step towards becoming a much quieter and ultimately a much more successful ice angler. The proof is right under your boots. So, what have we learned today? We've learned that the ice acts like a giant drum, sending the vibration of every single one of your footsteps directly down to the fish. We've learned that a fish's brain is hardwired to interpret this specific rhythmic signal as a major threat, causing them to hide or stop feeding long before you even drill your first hole. The biggest Whatever Poverot moment here is realizing that the quiet we've always been taught about is so much more than just not dropping your thermos. The real stealth game begins the second you step out of your truck. We might be scaring away 90% of the active fish in an area before our lure even touches the water. Think about that. This changes everything. It means planning your route across the ice is as important as picking your lure. It means the presence of snow is a strategic advantage, not just an inconvenience. It forces you to rethink your entire approach from the ground up, literally. Thank you for sticking with me through this deep dive. If you found this useful, do me a favor and hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next video. Now I have to ask you, after hearing all this, what is the single biggest change you are going to make to your approach on the ice? Let's get a discussion going in the comments below. Stay safe out there and walk softly.